Welcome back, everyone. Let's go ahead and do a comparison between the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 12 Pro in 2022 and see which specific phone you should go and pick up. Now, I will definitely tell you, if you have the money, go for the 12 Pro. I've kind of had issues with both these phones, to be honest, but I do currently have both these on iOS 16, which has been a pretty interesting experience on both these phones. If you want to pick either one of these things up, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, they are almost identically the same size. They have the same kind of screen for the most part, although the 12 Pros does look a little bit better. They're both 6.1-inch Super Retina Extra OLED panels. I will say, though, the iPhone 12's panel has always been pretty good. I haven't really had too many issues with it, but the 12 Pro is almost the exact same thing as well. If I go ahead and zoom into pretty much the notch, you can go ahead and see that for the most part, they have exactly the same type of notch size as well. So there's not really that big of an issue there. In terms of thickness and thickness, it's almost the exact same thing too. So the only big advantage you have on something like the 12 Pro for the most part is this stainless steel band. I like the fact that you have this band there that just makes the phone feel so much more premium. I will say, though, they're both like identically almost the same exact size. On the back, though, we do have the camera setups too, which is really nice. You have that triple camera setup on the iPhone 12 Pro and a dual camera setup on the iPhone 12. I think both these cameras have been great, wide and ultra-wide sensor on both, but the iPhone 12 Pro has that additional telephoto lens. So if you're somebody who's contemplating on buying a brand new iPhone 12, you can go into the Apple Store and buy it. I think Apple sells some certified refurbished iPhone 12 Pros, but regardless, the 12 Pro is more of a flagship, and it does have the frosted glass back here over the standard glass back on the iPhone 12. So I really do appreciate that on the 12 Pro. I think the 12 still looks fine and everything, but I mean, this one definitely feels more like the winner in my opinion. So in terms of the outside, when I look at both these phones, I definitely do think that the iPhone 12 Pro is probably more of the flagship, and it is the more of the flagship because it was more of a flagship. The 12, though, still looks good. I don't really have too many complaints about it on that end, but that kind of covers it up there. In terms of software, these two phones are going to be lasting exactly the same amount of time. There shouldn't be a situation where the 12 Pro ends up lasting like a crazy amount longer than the iPhone 12. Unless Apple does something really weird, which is, could happen. They do a lot of weird stuff. So I guess we'll see what happens in the future, but realistically, software-wise, they should be doing the exact same thing. So let's go ahead and do a speed comparison between them as well. We might as well get that out of the way. Again, both are on iOS 16 as of right now. The 12 Pro has the Apple A14 Bionic chip, same thing with the iPhone 12. The only difference is the iPhone 12 has 4 gigabytes of RAM. The iPhone 12 Pro has 6 gigabytes of RAM. So let's go and see which one is the faster one between both of these. Okay, there we go. Let's go and clear the apps in the background, and it looks like I have not cleared all the apps on the 12 Pro. So there we go. Let's get into it. Phone calls 3, 2, 1. The 12 Pro is here, the 12 is here, and of course I messed up the first one. Hopping out of here. Music 3, 2, 1. And the 12 was actually looking to be a little bit faster there. It's very, very interesting. Settings 3, 2, 1. Okay, kind of the same thing. Podcast 3, 2, 1. About the same thing too, not that big of a difference. App Store 3, 2, 1. And the iPhone 12 Pro, I think, was the faster one, followed by the iPhone 12. Scrolling through here, let's see if there's any differences. We'll just get into this one. Okay, not that big of a difference in my opinion. Photos 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same thing too. Hopping out of this one, let's go and get into camera 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same thing too. Reminders 3, 2, 1. Okay, there we go. Hopping out of this one, mail 3, 2, 1. 12 Pro slightly faster. Clock 3, 2, 1. Okay, about the same thing too. And let's go ahead and get into Apple TV 3, 2, 1. Okay, 12 Pro I think was slightly faster there. Very, very interesting for the most part. I do have some heavier intensive games. I thought I did. I guess I don't anymore. So let's do something like Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. And they're almost identical, which is very interesting. So they should be almost exactly the same thing because they have the same chipset. The RAM, I don't think, should make that big of a difference in terms of app loading speeds. They should be, keeping more apps in the background on the 12 Pro, though. So we got to keep that in mind. I thought I had 12 Subway Surfers here, too. It looks like I don't. We can go ahead and try something like Snapchat. 3, 2, 1. Okay, looks like the 12 Pro was slightly faster there. Let's go and get into something like Files. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I think the 12 Pro is faster there. iTunes Store 3, 2, 1. I think the 12 Pro is faster. Shortcuts 3, 2, 1. Okay, I think about the same thing. And we can go and end it off with like Translate 3, 2, 1. So I think we've kind of seen the same thing between both. I think the 12 Pro was probably consistently the more faster one, which was honestly expected. When you have a phone that's the flagship technically, this one should be the faster one. This one also has more RAM inside of it, but I never really found the 12 Pro to be like a crazy amount faster or better just in general than the 12. I think there are some areas where the 12 Pro is actually the better one, and one of those areas is actually with the camera. So we do have a little bit of a different camera setup on the back. The iPhone 12 Pro has that triple camera setup, so a wide, ultra wide, and telephoto lens, where the iPhone 12 has a wide and an ultra wide sensor. Now, personally, I feel like with the 12 Pro, this one also had like a pretty good camera throughout. Was it a perfect camera? Probably not. I also feel like this thing could have been a little bit better when it first came out just because of the lack of the telephoto lens here. Also, but the fact that the 13s also don't have telephoto lenses, I think is pretty okay for the most part. Now on top of this, we do have the standard ultra-wide lens, which is really nice. You can zoom out a lot into a photo, just like the 12 Pro does have. You can zoom in still quite a bit. You still have things like portrait mode, video mode, time-lapse, slow-mo, standard stuff. We do have 4K at 60 on the front and the back of this phone too, which is nice to have. But the iPhone 12 Pro with its camera setup pretty much has the exact same thing as well. So you still have that wide, ultra wide, and telephoto lens, so when you take photos on this thing, I mean, it still is a really good camera setup. Is it perfect? No, but it is better than the iPhone 12. We do lack things like cinematic mode that are on the iPhone 13s, but I still think this camera is really good. I never really complained about this camera. There were other things I complained about this phone with, in my opinion, but the camera was never one of those things. I feel like the camera is still very good and it holds up extremely well in 2022, at least when compared to the iPhone 13s. When compared to like the Samsungs and stuff, I still feel like those are superior, but this is still a very good, camera phone in my opinion. So when it comes down to it, I think the 12 Pro still has a very good camera setup, but that also brings me to something that both these phones kind of had issues with, and that's actually with the battery life, specifically with the battery health degradation. So both these phones had a little bit of an issue when it came down to the battery health, battery life, portion. This 12 Pro was the one I used on an everyday basis about a year ago, not actually quite a year ago, it was probably like 7 months ago or 10 months ago at this point, and this battery health degraded quite a bit. Now my iPhone 12 hasn't degraded as much, but I've heard equal amount of stories on both that, if you use an iPhone 12 every day, this battery health degraded quite a bit too. So when it comes down to both of these, I will definitely tell you the 12 Pro may end up giving you, I don't know if it'll give you better battery life. They have the same exact thing. I would say the 12 has probably the more potential of giving you better battery life, but I haven't really found too many big differences between both. I do probably feel like more so that the iPhone 12 Pro has given me decent battery life. It's just the battery health was degrading. And if you use the 12 on an everyday basis, probably the same exact thing too. I'll see what happens in the future between both of these. But when it comes down to it, if it was between a brand new iPhone 12 or a used iPhone 12 Pro, which is really the only way to get it now, I would probably recommend buying the used iPhone 12 Pro. These things are selling for, I think, like $600 for the base model. I feel like the 12 Pro is a much better deal. You can probably find these things all day for around $600, and this one probably makes the most amount of sense to me. I think this phone is almost perfect. If it wasn't for the battery health, that would probably be like a phone I would recommend a lot more. But the 12 Pro does lack things that most newer phones have, like promotion displays and other things like that. But this is definitely a better phone than the iPhone 12. But if the 12 is the one you want to buy, then go for it. But I would probably recommend getting the 12 Pro in my opinion. So that kind of covers it up. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.